The purpose of this action research is to identify how I can improve my professional practice and student engagement in the classroom. By utilizing the main principles of the ME framework, this action plan aims to analyze how incorporating purposeful technology impacts student motivation and engagement. For my placement, I was placed in a government school in a lower socioeconomic status area in Great Western Sydney region, Wentworthville Public School. At the time of my placement, the school had just short of 900 students and it kept growing during my 6-week placement. The students were split almost evenly between boys and girls, and I was told during my orientation that the majority of the students were EALD, as 95% of the students spoke a language other than English. 1% of the school's population identified as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. I was informed that most of the students in the school were from a South Asian background and that there were approximately 47 South Asian languages spoken in the school, as well as Arabic and English. You could say that it was a really multicultural school. But one thing I noticed throughout my 6-week placement is that the majority of students struggled with writing and reading tasks due to their background. When I inquired about this, I was informed that it was a school-wide issue. During my placement, I was put in a Stage 1 Year 2 classroom. My mentor teacher was very friendly and she had just graduated 5 years prior. I did not find her intimidating and we developed a friendship relationship. The classroom had 24 students altogether, none of which required additional assistance or an SLSO. Some students had minor behavioral problems. However, overall my experience was very good, informative and very successful. The school's PBL scheme is based on being safe, respectful, and being a learner. These behaviors were sought out, observed, and rewarded both outside of the classroom and inside. During the 6 weeks that I spent with the 24 kids in my classroom, I was able to observe a lot of strengths and some weaknesses that was common in all of them. So most students were able to complete all numeracy related activities, most other KLAs. They were so good at working with technology and working within time restraints, working in groups and individually, reasoning their responses and communicating with the teachers and others. But some common weaknesses were literacy tasks due to the EALD background, taking risks in their learning, and then refocusing when disengaged or demotivated. By implementing purposeful technology in the classroom and basing all activities and lessons to the abilities, I observed my mentor teacher manage behavior, engage students, and motivate them to reach their academic and social goals. My aim is to implement these same values and practices in order to refine my practice and improve student engagement in my classroom. Looking back at my professional experience, I find that I struggled a lot with conducting and running lessons that are centered around the student needs of the classroom. This was especially the case in the beginning, as I really didn't know them that well. The only experience I had in a classroom was a theoretical one at uni. So theoretically, a classroom lesson runs for an hour and it runs seamlessly, and you don't have to worry about any behaviors, preparations, or meeting any realistic outcomes. However, my first lesson that I ran was a maths lesson, and I did it during my 2nd week of the prac. It took up almost the whole middle session, which is approximately 2 hours, and I relied on my mentor teacher to help me every couple of minutes. One thing my mentor teacher often reminded me of was my teacher presence. A teacher presence, according to my mentor teacher, is essential for the classroom to run smoothly, and taking on a friend-like role with my students was something that caused me to lose control of all the lessons that I conducted in the beginning. According to relevant literature, having a presence in the classroom serves as a source of motivation for students as they feel supported and considered. A teacher presence is setting expectations and developing activities that are clear, engaging, and centered around the needs and interests of the classroom. In turn, students will value their learning if their teacher is present and also responsive to their needs. Students value their education more as their learning is now centered around them and relevant to them. Students will then understand that the teacher is there to support their learning and to support their progress in the school. Going back to 21st century pedagogy, one strategy that my mentor teacher often used in the classroom was the integration of technology. The integration of purposeful technology in the classroom is efficient in creating a student-centered classroom as it allows teachers to personalize activities and lessons to cater for the needs and enhance engagement in the classroom. It also has real-world applications and prepares students for future experiences. Technology is used in the world around your students, and research shows that students tend to engage and value their learning more when they can make real-world connections. Like any other strategy, there are challenges to incorporating technology. Affordability, setup time, and distraction being the main three I found in Wentworthville. Not all schools can afford a set of technology for every single classroom, and they're usually often shared by grades. Teachers need to ensure that the technology is available for use before using it or incorporating it in their lessons. Setting up technology also takes some time and management, so that can be tricky as well. And of course, students tend to misuse technology when given the chance. To assess the value and validity of integrating technology into my lessons, I will collect and analyze data to ensure that students are engaged in their learning. This data is also helpful when reflecting on my pedagogy and altering my practice. I'll have access to the work samples through Microsoft Teams. After every lesson, students must upload their work. Also, the student presentation is the final work sample that is going to be collected to measure the cognitive, operative, and effective engagement of this learning experience. Alongside my mentor, these work samples will be analyzed to reflect their effectiveness. Another source of data that will be used is observation. Observation will be happening throughout all 3 lessons. During the first 2 lessons, I am able to observe whether students are contributing to the task or sitting back and letting the other students do all the work. Essentially, throughout the whole learning experience, I will be able to observe the operative, cognitive, and affirmative engagement of all my students. Finally, the structure of this learning experience allows students to self-reflect and self-assess their understanding through all the activities that are presented to them. The final work sample, which is the presentation, will allow students to reflect and evaluate their own learning and their own engagement in this task. This is especially the case when they are presenting their project to the audience. All the collected data will be analyzed using the sociological section of the ME framework and the outcomes of the mathematical curriculum. The analysis of the data will help me reflect and alter my teaching pedagogy to engage and encourage participation in the classroom. The ME framework will allow me to interpret the level of engagement these lessons have had, whilst the syllabus outcomes will help me assess the academic progress and achievement of the students. These learning experiences were made to engage students to their learning and motivate participation in all activities by using technology to center learning to the needs of the students. Adding this information to the analyzed data, I will be able to reflect on my own teaching philosophies and teaching pedagogy to favor student engagement and motivation in my classroom. Current literature has revealed that research in student engagement should be multidimensional. Researchers such as Noble and Hill suggest that research in this field of study should be triangulated. They describe triangulation as the combination of multiple research approaches to help confirm the validity of research. Looking at my data sources, for example, observation, work samples, and student self-assessment. They all offer different elements to add to this process of learning. Observations, for instance, is a constant real-time insight for the teacher in student behavior that might influence their engagement and their motivation to learn. Student self-assessment, on the other hand, can give the teacher the student's perspective of the activities. Are the instructions clear enough? Do they have enough scaffolding or support, etc.? Work sample is usually a reflection of the academic achievement of the student. They are usually the end product and give insight on who was able to meet the outcomes and who needed extra support. Purpose for Technology Integration is a 21st century pedagogy that serves many purposes and greatly enhances the educational experiences of students. Some of the benefits of technology is enhancing engagement in the classroom through interactive visualization platforms and stimulations. Technology personalizes learning and activities to suit different students and classroom abilities, ensuring that all students receive the appropriate level of support and challenges in their learning. Technology has real-world applications that make students value their learning since they can make connections between their learning and their real life. Technology can also increase the efficiency of activities, and some software can provide students with real-time automated feedback. Finally, technology provides students and teachers with access to an abundance of resources, helping students become more independent and self-directed. This action research plan also includes the ME framework that facilitates high cognitive, operative, and affective learning experiences that can help motivate students, keep them engaged in their learning, and encourage them to commit to their education. Together, 21st century pedagogies and the ME framework will assist me in developing my own pedagogy and refining my practice to develop a student-centered classroom. Not only does it create a student-centered classroom, but changes and alterations in my pedagogical practice that ultimately leads to better teaching directly aligns with the Australian professional teaching standards. The following are the teaching standards that I would have met if I were to implement any changes that come through this action plan. Taking time to understand how the students in your classroom learn, their specific needs and their abilities to help develop activities and lessons shows that I am meeting standard 1, knowing students and how they learn. When incorporating technology or including any of the other 21st century pedagogies, it's important that the teacher takes the time to understand the classroom dynamic and what pedagogy is suitable for their learning. This way, students will feel supported in their learning, will feel motivated, and feel engaged in all their classroom activities. The action plans considers all the needs of the students in the classrooms, their engagement and their motivation. This shows that I meet standard 4 creating and maintaining supportive and safe learning environments. I do this by ensuring all students feel like they can participate in these lessons. Before implementing any aspects of this plan, it is important for me to plan every lesson appropriately and work with my mentor teacher so that I can provide students with the best practice possible. In addition to this, consulting the mentor teacher and taking advice and feedback and implementing it back into my practice ensures that I meet standard 6. To conclude, the discourse of student engagement is one that is multidimensional. The results of research such as this action plan will help me develop a student-centered classroom that is supportive and considerate of all the needs within it. It's important to know that enhanced engagement isn't something that can occur over 3 learning experiences, but has to be implemented over a long period of time. I hope that my teaching pedagogy can assist student motivation and engagement, encouraging them to commit to their learning and be the best students they can be.